I pushed through the door as bass rattled the glasses, and someone screamed my name. I saw Lena laughing with Caleb under gold confetti, and my stomach dropped like a trap. Lena said, "You made it," but her eyes slid past me. Caleb said, "Ava, hey," with a smile that looked borrowed. My phone buzzed with Lena's last text that read, "Running late," and the timestamp bled like a joke. I heard a toast start, and my pulse matched the rhythm of the room. I remembered the dress we picked together, and how she promised the night was mine. Lena said, "Don't overthink it," while her hand clutched the cuff he once left in my car. Caleb said, "Talk later," but his voice dodged me like a lie with feet. Noah caught my gaze, and worry cut through the noise like a clean blade. I tasted metal, and laughter swelled until it sounded like breaking glass. The crowd turned toward the staircase as if pulled by a tide. I stood still and felt the friendship tilt, and the floor no longer knew me. The kitchen hummed like a quieter storm, and the cold marble steadied my hands. I stared at the sink and counted the breaths I used to share with Lena on nights like this. Ava said, "Say it was a misunderstanding," and the words felt thin. Lena once braided my hair and promised we would be unshakable. Caleb taught me how to read a room, yet I missed the room that read me. Noah said, "You don't have to stand alone," but my pride stood taller than the doorway. The playlist shifted to our summer song, and a memory cracked open like ice. Lena said, "I only wanted to protect you years ago when secrets were soft." I felt the shape of every late night we saved each other from small disasters. The house sighed and the fridge clicked, and the silver of a knife caught the light. I knew a lie when it felt rehearsed and sweet. I needed facts sharper than this ache and cleaner than the glitter in my shoes. I found Lena near the hallway mirror where we used to fix smudged eyeliner together. She turned before I spoke, as if my anger had a scent. Ava said, "You texted me you were late, and I kept my voice even." Lena said, "Plans changed," and her smile stuck like a sticker that would not peel clean. Caleb drifted near, and his shadow cut across us like a line in sand. Ava said, "Did you tell him what you told me was nothing?" And my throat burned. Lena said, "Don't make a scene," and the mirror held the worst version of us. Caleb said, "We should talk somewhere else," like the hallway had teeth. Memory marched in with matching heels and stung my arches. The chandelier clicked once and made a small star on her collarbone. Lena said, "You always believed the best in people," and the sentence sounded cruel. I watched the truth crouch behind her eyes and wait to pounce. I pushed out to the patio where rain stitched the pool with silver threads. The night smelled like citrus and wet stone, and quiet finally sat beside me. Noah followed and kept a respectful step, like kindness with breaks. Ava said, "Tell me I'm not inventing this," and the sky held its breath. Noah said, "You saw enough to doubt, and that is already heavy." I traced the rim of an empty glass and felt the ring chill my skin. We remembered a road trip where Lena sang off-key and made us howl. Ava said she would not trade me for a headline, and hope sounded brittle. Thunder rolled soft as a warning, and the ivy on the wall twitched. Noah said, "Truth is patient, but it is not gentle." I raised my head as if the house would answer, and every light inside blinked like a code I should have learned. I re-entered the music as if wading into a river that knew my name. The host tapped a mic, and silence fell like a velvet curtain. Lena stood near the staircase with confidence that tasted medicinal. Ava said, "Please choose me, but only inside where it was safe to beg." Caleb said, "We owe her the truth," and pressure bent the air between us. Lena said, "Then let us be honest," and her tone glittered like a trap. A screen flickered to life with photos from weeks I did not share. My name flashed with captions that sliced, and laughter rose in the wrong places. I felt the room pivot as if it wanted a better view of the ruin. Noah said, "You can walk or you can burn," and both sounded honest. I lifted my chin, and every promise we made turned to ash in the lights. The first tear did not fall. It held the line like a soldier at dawn. Ava sat on the couch where she and Lena once stayed up, whispering about crushes and broken dreams. The fabric still smelled faintly of vanilla candles from last winter. Ava said, "We promised forever," and the echo inside her chest hurt. Lena once swore they would move to the city together, no matter who they loved. Caleb entered carrying 2 drinks, but his eyes avoided hers like glass turning away light. Noah leaned against the wall, observing as if he carried secrets too sharp to speak. Ava said, "You don't erase years with one lie." But the party noise swallowed her. The laughter of strangers coated her like dust. She remembered birthday nights where Lena pushed cake into her face and vowed to always protect her. Ava felt every vow now crumble like paper soaked in water. She clasped her hands and wondered when home turned into enemy territory. Ava drifted toward the kitchen where she and Lena once baked cookies for study nights. She touched the counter and felt the ghost of powdered sugar on her fingertips. Ava said, "We carved our names here." But no one was listening. Lena entered with effortless charm, her red dress flowing like fire. Caleb followed, a shadow tethered by guilt. Noah stepped closer, voice quiet as smoke, and said, "Some bonds rot slowly, some snap fast." Ava remembered singing badly with Lena in this same space, swaying with spoons as microphones. The memory burned brighter than the overhead bulbs. Lena said, "Not everything is betrayal," but her lips trembled like paper in wind. Ava whispered, "Then why does it feel like I'm erased?" The silence following was heavier than stone. Ava walked into the den, where photos of childhood birthdays lined the shelves. The sight of her and Lena at age 12, with messy braids, cut her deeper than words. Ava said, "We grew up together," and her throat closed. Caleb studied the photographs with guilt shading his jaw. Lena said, "We were kids then," as if innocence excused the fracture now. Noah's silence filled the room like a warning bell. Ava remembered sneaking out to watch meteor showers, swearing to never leave each other behind. She felt those promises shatter with every flash of camera memory. Ava said, "You held my hand when my world cracked, and now you're the one breaking it." The room felt smaller, and the air heavy. Ava slipped outside to the porch where childhood summers had passed with melted popsicles and shared secrets. The cold night air wrapped around her like unfinished sentences. Ava said, "I want the girl who loved me like a sister," and her voice cracked. Lena stepped out, hair damp with mist, and said, "I never stopped loving you," though her tone betrayed distance. Caleb remained inside, silhouetted through the glass, guilt painted across his face. Noah followed cautiously, hands in pockets, his breath clouding. Ava remembered fireflies caught in jars, and late-night promises whispered into the dark. She felt time twist, pulling warm memory against sharp reality. Ava said, "Then why does it feel like I'm disposable?" And the words froze between them like ice. Ava re-entered the main room as laughter roared again. The chandelier sprayed light across glasses raised too high. She remembered nights when Lena toasted to their unshakable bond. Ava said, "We had everything," but her voice was drowned. Lena said, "We still do," yet her eyes betrayed fear. Caleb stood at her side, shoulders tight with silent weight. Noah lingered near, gaze sharp as a blade hidden in plain sight. Ava thought of late nights where they dreamed of their futures together. Now she saw futures breaking like glass underfoot. She clutched her purse strap as if it could hold her dignity together. Ava said, "I won't let lies define me," and felt strength coil inside the hurt. The room spun, but her resolve stayed steady. Ava stood at the foot of the staircase, where the music thinned and whispers filled the gaps. She remembered climbing these steps with Lena to hide from noisy parties, sharing secrets only they knew. Ava said, "You never guarded my heart," and the words felt too heavy. Lena said, "You think you own every truth," and her tone cracked like brittle glass. Caleb shifted behind her, his shoulders pulled tight as if bracing for collapse. Noah leaned at the bottom step, arms folded, his silence sharper than any voice. Ava said, "Every promise feels like a bruise now," and the chandelier above trembled with the bass. The night smelled of spilled champagne and perfume, that once felt comforting. Lena said, "You will twist everything I do," and the words landed like knives. Ava felt the betrayal stretch wide enough to swallow the room. Ava slipped into the hallway where framed photos lined the walls, each one reminding her of a past she no longer trusted. She paused at a picture of her and Lena in matching sweaters, both smiling with eyes closed. Ava said, "You chose this lie over years of love," and the hallway air tightened. Lena's heels clicked as she approached, her face carved into something unreadable. Caleb whispered, "This isn't the place," though his voice carried fear. Noah stood at the corner, his reflection caught in the glass frame. Ava said, "You never thought I'd catch on," and heat rushed through her. Lena said, "You don't know half of it," and that half sounded deadly. The hallway lights buzzed, and Ava realized silence could hurt worse than screams. Ava moved toward the crowded living room, where laughter grew louder, though it felt like a performance now. The floor vibrated beneath her heels as if echoing her anger. Ava said, "I thought you had my back," but the words were lost in music. Lena leaned into Caleb, whispering something Ava couldn't hear, her smile brittle. Caleb said, "Don't make this worse," his hand brushing Lena's arm. Noah drifted near Ava, his quiet presence an anchor in the storm. Ava remembered movie nights piled on couches, where loyalty was their script. Ava said, "Every memory feels poisoned," and the lights above seemed to flicker in agreement. Lena said, "You can't rewrite history," but her eyes betrayed a crack of doubt. The crowd around them cheered at nothing, blind to what broke between them. Ava escaped into the bathroom where the mirror was streaked with condensation from too many guests. She locked the door and pressed both hands to the sink. Ava said, "She was my safe place," and her reflection looked back broken. Water dripped from the faucet like ticking seconds. Ava remembered sneaking here during parties with Lena, reapplying lipstick while laughing at inside jokes. The silence pressed heavy now. Ava said, "I should have seen this coming," and her shoulders shook. From outside, Lena's voice rose faintly, muffled by the door, words that no longer felt meant for her. Ava's chest heaved, and the light above hummed like a warning. Noah's knock was soft, steady, carrying comfort without words. Ava whispered, "I don't know how to breathe in this," and the mirror cracked her gaze in two. Ava returned to the dining area where discarded plates and half-drunk glasses created a battlefield of carelessness. The smell of wine mixed with perfume. Ava said, "This friendship is bleeding out," and her voice rang sharp. Lena stood tall at the other end of the table, her face set like stone. Caleb hovered near her, trapped between guilt and loyalty. Noah sat at the edge of the table, hands folded, gaze steady. Ava remembered nights they made midnight pancakes here, laughing over burnt batter. Ava said, "We were stronger than this," but her tone fractured mid-word. Lena said, "You only see betrayal because you expect perfection," and her voice carried anger. The chandelier rattled as if echoing the tension. Ava lifted her chin, realizing every crack was only growing wider. The living room fell into hush as the projector flickered alive again. Ava's face filled the wall, but the photos were ones she had never shared. Her private messages scrolled across the screen, twisted into mockery. Ava said, "You used me as entertainment," and her chest burned. Lena stood with a calm mask, but her hands trembled behind her back. Caleb whispered, "This wasn't my idea," though guilt bled through every syllable. Noah's jaw tightened as if the truth weighed too much to stay hidden. Ava remembered late nights where Lena begged her to keep secrets, swearing trust. Ava said, "You stripped me bare," her voice shaking yet sharp. Lena said, "I had to show them who you really are." And the words cut deeper than silence. The room gasped as betrayal stepped out from shadows into light. Ava stepped forward, voice trembling but unbroken. She said, "Every word you showed was pulled from nights where I trusted you with pieces of me." Lena looked away, refusing to meet her eyes. Caleb said, "This went too far," his voice cracking like wood under pressure. Noah muttered, "The truth doesn't need knives," though few heard him. Ava remembered sleepovers where Lena swore their secrets were locked away forever. Now those same secrets burned her alive in front of strangers. Ava said, "You wanted to humiliate me," and her hands curled into fists. Lena whispered, "I wanted them to see you aren't perfect," but regret dripped behind her words. The air grew thick with stares from the crowd, waiting for more fractures to spread. Ava felt her knees weaken but stood tall as the screen flicked to a final message, Lena telling Caleb that Ava was too fragile to be trusted. Ava said, "You poisoned me to him," her voice heavy with rage. Caleb looked between them, guilt etched across his face like cracks in stone. Lena said, "You would have lost him anyway," and the room inhaled sharply. "Noah," said Loyalty, "doesn't vanish unless you kill it," his voice cold. Ava remembered how Lena once promised, "If I lose everyone, I'll still have you." The promise now mocked her. Ava said, "You betrayed us both," and silence fell so sharp it ached. The truth rippled outward, leaving no corner untouched. Ava stormed to the patio doors, the cold air seeping through cracks, but the betrayal followed like smoke. Lena trailed her, voice sharp as glass. Lena said, "You've always made yourself the victim," her red dress flashing under the porch light. Ava spun and said, "You carved me open for applause," her tone raw. Caleb stepped halfway outside, voice shaking, "Stop this before it destroys you both." Noah lingered in the doorway, eyes heavy with sorrow. Ava remembered nights when Lena's laughter was medicine, not a weapon. Ava said, "I don't know who you are anymore," and her breath fogged into the rain-soaked night. The house grew restless, whispers trailing like smoke as the party cracked open into sides. Ava said, "You broke the only bond that mattered," and her voice silenced the noise. Lena said, "You never saw me, not really," her eyes burning. Caleb pressed his palms together, muttering, "This isn't how it was supposed to go." Noah said, "It's exactly how lies end," voice sharp enough to split the air. Ava remembered childhood summers, their hands sticky with popsicle syrup, swearing they'd never fight. Now that memory stood in ashes. Ava said, "This is your choice," and her chest rose with painful clarity. The night felt like it was ending, but Ava knew the war had just begun. The room held its breath as Ava stepped into the glow of the chandelier. She felt the floor tilt, but she refused to sway. Ava said, "You made a circus out of my trust," and the music thinned. Lena said, "You left me no choice," yet her voice trembled. Caleb said, "This is not what I wanted," and shame tightened his jaw. Noah moved closer like a lighthouse through fog. Ava thought of sleepovers where Lena braided hope into her hair. Ava said, "You sharpened secrets and threw them like knives." Lena said, "You always win the room," and envy flared. Caleb said, "I should have stopped this," but his eyes stayed low. The crowd pressed in, hungry for lightning. Noah said, "Tell the truth, and let the debris fall." Ava lifted her chin and felt something unbreakable rise. Ava pulled Lena into the study where the door clicked like a lock on memory. Dust motes floated in the lamplight like drifting ash. Ava said, "Why him and why this?" and heat climbed her throat. Lena said, "I was tired of being second to your glow," and the words burned. Ava remembered lending dresses, alibis, and courage without keeping score. Ava said, "I never asked you to shrink," and her hands opened. Lena said, "You never had to," and the confession cut deep. Silence throbbed against the shelves. Ava said, "You chose humiliation over conversation," and the air thinned. Lena said, "I wanted to feel powerful just once," and her eyes shimmered. The lamp hummed like a lie learning its last breath. Ava felt the friendship snap like a frozen branch. They returned to the hall where whispers gathered like smoke. Caleb stood waiting, palms up, as if surrendering. Caleb said, "I believed what I wanted to believe," and regret shook his voice. Ava said, "You knew me," and the ache rang clean. Lena looked away as if the walls had answers. Noah said, "Cowardice wears friendly faces," and the line held. Ava remembered Caleb promising honesty during long drives and late coffees. Ava said, "You let her words define me," and a hush spread. Caleb said, "I am sorry," but apology felt thin. The bass thudded like a heartbeat refusing to slow. Lena said, "We can fix this," and hope sounded false. Ava stepped back and felt strength settle where doubt lived. Ava climbed 2 steps on the staircase and faced the room like a storm meeting shore. She felt fear arrive and take a seat behind resolve. Ava said, "You witnessed a performance, not the truth," and the hush deepened. Lena said, "She hides behind purity," and bitterness sparked. Caleb said enough, but his protest faded. Noah said, "Let her finish," and the floor stilled. Ava told them how friendship stitched her together after losses no one saw. Ava said, "I kept her secrets while she rehearsed mine for applause." Murmurs collided with glass. Lena said, "You made me invisible," and envy stood exposed. Ava said, "I saw you. I loved you, and you used it to wound me." The chandelier chimed like brittle ice. The climax broke when Lena lunged for the remote, and the screen flared back to life. Ava stepped forward and yanked the cable, and the image died with a pop. Ava said no more, and the room jolted. Lena said, "You don't get the last word," and anger bit the air. Caleb caught Lena's wrist and said, "Stop," and his voice finally held steel. "Noah," said, "dignity is the last light," and his calm steadied the edges. Ava felt the quake settle into fierce quiet. Ava said, "You will not narrate me," and the words landed heavy. Silence stood up and cleared the room of noise. Lena breathed hard as if running from herself. Ava lifted her chin and chose the hard door out of the storm. The party thinned to whispers as guests slipped out, leaving silence to settle like dust. Ava leaned against the wall, the weight of betrayal pressing down. Ava said, "It's over," but her voice trembled with exhaustion. Lena stood across the room, eyes glassy, shoulders stiff, clutching pride like a shield. Caleb rubbed his temples, muttering, "We should have stopped sooner." Noah stepped closer, voice calm and steady. "You walked through fire and did not burn." Ava remembered summers of laughter that now felt like photographs soaked in rain. Ava said, "The friendship is gone," and it sounded final. Lena said, "You were always better at letting go," though bitterness lined every word. Ava lifted her chin, strength trembling beneath pain. Ava stepped onto the porch where cool rain painted the night in silver streaks. The smell of wet grass rose like memory. Ava said, "I can breathe again," though her chest still shook. Noah followed, his jacket darkened by drizzle, voice low, "Sometimes survival looks like leaving." Ava remembered fireflies in jars, whispering dreams with Lena until dawn. The same porch now held a different kind of truth. Ava said, "We promised forever here," and the words cracked like old wood. Noah said forever was broken, the moment lies replaced trust. Ava looked at the night sky, searching for something steady. The thunder rumbled softly, and she felt her heart realign with the storm. Inside, Lena collapsed into a chair, her mascara streaking like ink across fragile paper. Caleb crouched near, whispering, "This wasn't the way." Lena said, "She was supposed to lose," voice sharp but shaking. Ava walked back in, shoulders squared, gaze steady. Ava said, "You lost me," and the silence after carried more weight than shouts. Noah lingered in the doorway, his eyes soft but firm. Ava remembered Lena hugging her after her first heartbreak, whispering, "I'll never hurt you." That vow mocked them now. Caleb said, "We ruined what mattered most," his voice breaking. Ava stepped past them, not looking back. The chair creaked as Lena buried her face in her hands. Ava stood before the hallway mirror one last time, staring at the reflection that no longer included Lena's shadow. She whispered, "I survived," and it sounded like both loss and victory. The mirror reflected the girl who had loved too much and lost too much. Noah said, "You didn't break," his voice carrying quiet pride. Ava remembered applying lipstick next to Lena, both laughing at crooked lines. Now, only silence filled the glass. Caleb lingered down the hall, eyes cast to the floor. Lena didn't follow this time. Ava said, "Some endings save us," and turned away. The hallway light flickered and steadied, as if agreeing. Ava opened the front door, the night air rushing in like freedom. The storm had softened to drizzle, street lamps glowing halos in the wet. Ava said, "I walk out lighter, though her chest still ached." Noah followed, silent but steady, carrying unspoken loyalty. Lena remained behind, her silence a prison of her own making. Caleb sat near her, head in hands, unable to undo damage. Ava remembered childhood laughter, echoing down driveways, both of them believing nothing could touch them. Now she believed differently. Ava said, "I'll heal on my terms," and stepped into the rain. The door clicked shut, ending a chapter heavy but done. Ava walked under the awning, while the rain slowed to a mist. The street hummed like a distant ocean, steady and indifferent. Ava said, "I thought love could hold the roof up," and the words felt lighter now. Noah said roofs are built, not wished into place, and his calm eased the edges. Ava remembered birthdays, road trips, and pinky swears under cheap stars. The memories no longer begged to be proof of anything. Caleb texted a fractured apology that glowed and dimmed on her screen. Ava said, "Guilt is not repair," and let the phone drop to her pocket. The world smelled of wet asphalt and beginning. Noah said, "You kept your truth when it hurt," and the night did not argue. Ava breathed until her chest opened like a door finally unstuck. Dawn touched the clouds like a promise that did not need witnesses. Ava said, "I will not audition for care again," and the words felt clean. Noah said, "You are allowed to select your audience," and his smile reached his eyes. Ava thought of Lena's laughter, then let it pass like a train not for her. She typed a message and erased it, then typed another that was only one line. Ava said, "Kindness to myself begins here," and pressed send to no one but her notes. A bird called from a wet branch with unreasonable hope. The party felt like a city she had left without a map. Noah said, "Your compass is working," and she believed him. Ava watched the light decide on the faces of houses and felt chosen by morning. Inside, Lena sat at the dining table with the wreckage of the night around her. Caleb said, "We went too far," and the words hung like smoke. Lena stared at the dim screen where no applause returned. She opened a chat with Ava and closed it without a word. Ava stood at her own doorstep, keys in hand, deciding on silence. Ava said, "I release what will not apologize with action," and the lock turned. Noah waited on the steps and nodded as if a verdict had been reached. Lena said, "She always leaves," though the echo felt small. Caleb said, "She saved herself," and the room finally told the truth. Ava exhaled and felt her name return to her unbroken. Ava showered the glitter out of her hair and watched it spin down like a ceremony. She brewed coffee that smelled like steadiness. Ava said, "Today I build," and the mug warmed both hands. She opened a blank document and titled it with her own name, not theirs. Noah texted a photo of the sky and wrote, "Clear enough." Ava smiled and felt the muscles remember how. She stacked the small victories like bricks that would not crack. Lena stared at her mirror and found no audience worth performing for. Caleb scrolled through old photos and closed the album with shaking fingers. Ava said, "I forgive in self-defense," and meant it without letting anyone back in. Evening settled with a quieter sky and a steadier heart. Ava walked past the party house, now dark and ordinary. The lawn still glittered with a few confetti ghosts. Ava said, "What we were is finished," and the air did not argue. Noah said, "What you are is only starting," and his voice carried like light. She paused at the gate and touched the cold metal once. Ava said, "They didn't just betray me," and the truth sharpened. Ava said, "They betrayed every version of us we could have been," and the night took the line and kept it. The house remained silent, and that silence felt like justice. Ava turned away and did not look back.